What up, gamers? I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice & Dragons, we are going to be reviewing the Wizard of Oz adventure book game, the second in the series. This is published by Ravensburger and designed by Ryan Miller. Now, we've already covered how to play the game. Now, there are some differences with the Wizard of Oz in our video on the Princess Bride, so there'll be a card that will link back to that if you want to check that out. After we go through the intro, we'll be checking out the components and then reviewing the game. Now, Julie's going to take it away and tell you more about the game itself.
This is a cooperative game for 1 to 4 players for ages 10 and above, plays in about 15 minutes a chapter.
Yeah, there'll be a little bit more time while you're setting up the chapters, as it is 6 different mini games. Each chapter plays differently with different objectives that you need to accomplish. So we already explained just sort of the basics of the game. In order to accomplish your objectives, you'll be playing cards to meet challenges and deal with different situations that will arise in the chapter. Those situations come from the plot deck that really tries to keep the tension and push you towards resolution or failing the chapter. You're going to be going through the entire story of the Wizard of Oz, and at this point we are currently on chapter 6. We are almost done. We are about to wrap up this game. Now, did I miss anything at all, Julie?
No, I don't think so.
All right, so now we are going to grab our drink, grab our best friend and lost traveler.
We're going to take it to the table.
One more time. Now I'm going to take a quick look at the components for the Wizard of Oz adventure book game. Now, if you've happened to play it or have read the rules for the Princess Bride game, they are very similar in terms of what you're going to be doing. Some of the stuff that's different is the Glinda the Good Witch counters and how they work. So I do recommend just perusing through it, this rule book, and just get the clarifications. So as you can see here, like the special cards, Glinda the Good Witch, completing the chapter and ending the game are probably where you see the most differences. So keep that in mind. It's a nice rule book, easy to understand, easy to go through. I want to address just the pile of tokens here. We'll talk a little bit about them, but as the instructions for them are very clearly detailed in the book, I just want to show you what you're going to get. I wasn't going to go over them in a ton of detail, so we'll just show you the adventure book, what you can expect to see. So you get the instructions for the chapter, the setup, the rules, how you lose the game. Then on the other side over here, you've got the different challenges that you need to complete, and you have the token here, just to tell yourself when you have completed one of the challenges, and you'll be moving the miniatures around the board, this play area. Now, who do we've got for miniatures? Well, we have, of course, Dorothy, Glinda the Good Witch, Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and I don't know why I didn't put them all together, but we will rectify that now. You get over there by yourself. The Cowardly Lion, and there was some good detail in the minis. If you want to paint them, you definitely could. And here we've got the Wicked Witch. Now, one of the key differences between the two games, Princess Bride and Wizard of Oz, is you get specific chapter plot decks in this one. So they're for the 6 chapters. Each of them has their own deck. Now take a look at the first one. So stuff that can happen, you got to move the farmhands around, and you might get some, animals become grumpy, and the twister may be moving around the board depending on the cards that you draw. So all these have negative and sometimes positive things that will come out of the deck. You've got a reference card, so everything that you need to know about the game, one for each player. Here we've got your standard deck of cards, which has the Courage, Heart, Magic. Oh, this is actually from the special deck. We'll just put it there. Brains. And Wonder cards that you're going to be needing to play to complete the different challenges. Then you've got the special deck of cards that you will be acquiring from that can be played a lot of the time at any time. Like each player may discard any number of cards and draw that many cards, so you'll be able to help out other players. You can even stop from drawing a plot card like this one. Do not draw a plot card this turn if you think you're going to be in trouble. Now when it comes to the tokens, we've already seen this, the completed ones. These are the munchkins that come in play for the village. We've got the Glinda the Good Witch tokens, fireballs, and a few other things that will come into play, such as the twister and the animals right at the start. The other ones will be detailed in the rules for the chapter as to when you're going to need them. So that's it. Just wanted to go over the basics of the components for the Wizard of Oz. We already covered the how to play in our Princess Bride video, so make sure if you want to learn the game, you check that out. Now keep it right here, as Julie and I will be coming back at you with a review of the Wizard of Oz, the adventure book game. So Julie, this is the second adventure book game. You were a little bit more muted on the first one. What did you think of the changes with this game, and how did you like it? Well, I should have said in this game. To this game, I don't know. That was a terrible turn of phrase.
I am definitely the bigger fan of the IP. I really enjoy this story, this movie. I think it's much better than The Princess Bride. I'm putting it out there. It's just, the way it is.
No, I would much rather watch The Princess Bride than The Wizard of Oz. I've seen The Wizard of Oz far less times than The Princess Bride. It's definitely not more quotable than Princess Bride because that movie is so awesome. It's inconceivable.
Yeah, okay. This is a classic for sure. In any case, it was, there's a couple of things that made it a little bit different. I don't know if we made a mistake the first time or not, but having the special cards come into the deck definitely played into making this game easier.
Yeah, it definitely was not challenging at all.
Well, there's one chapter, I can't remember which one, where we're like, this might be going sideways. Oh no, here we go.
It really wasn't that difficult.
I think, similarly to The Princess Bride, this is definitely not a complicated game. This is definitely not for somebody who's looking for a challenging, complex, cooperative game. This is, by every stretch of the imagination, a family game that you can play, a light family game, I would say. It's definitely easy to teach, easy to learn. It can be played with, young people. If you're playing with them, I think you can definitely play under the age of 10.
Well, yeah, you're going to be playing the game open-handed at that point. The only problem if you're playing open-handed, it kind of lends to an alpha gamer situation, so you really want to try to make the decisions as cooperatively as possible.
So for me, it's very similar to The Princess Bride, except I enjoyed the story and the IP more. This is very much very, very thematic. It's very, it covers the movie very, very well. And so for that, I enjoyed it. For, the fact, is this replayable? Still no. Is this still a game that I would want to play, pull out and play with you? No. Similarly to the Princess Bride, at one point I was like, okay, I got it. Let's move on. There's no real challenge here. Not that I always need a huge challenge, but, it kind of felt, even though each chapter was a little different, that it wasn't all that different.
I think the game would be better, and I think just the style of game is if it was 45 minutes, almost if 2 chapters were condensed into a single play session, and it plays over 3 chapters, so you get to experience 2 parts of the movie. Now that would be fairly difficult to do. I don't know if it would work, but I'd much rather take this out, play for 45 minutes, and put it away and be done with it. At that hour to hour and a half mark, there are other games that I'd rather take off the shelf and play.
Yeah, and there is some variability to this based on the cards that you pick up, but it's still, not necessarily that replayable. You already know the story, but
you know the mechanics.
and you figure out the mechanics. Maybe younger players don't mind the repetitiveness of it or the fact that it's familiar. Maybe that makes it more accessible. But this is a very, very accessible game. I think it's definitely a good family game. Or, for people that aren't really big gamers but that love the IP. I think it boils down to, very similarly to what we said for The Princess Bride. If you love the IP and you're looking for an easy, accessible family-style board game, then this is for you. If you love the IP and you don't mind that format, then this is for you as well. If you're a more, I'm not going to say a more serious gamer. If you're somebody who wants more of a challenge with your cooperative games, you're going to get bored with this. If you don't mind buying it and then reselling it, then try it out. But I think, we talked about it. I think this is a board game cafe kind of game.
Yeah, and I think that's a great assessment. I think it's fun to play, especially if you're fans of the IP. You're going to have a good time playing with it. The experience, as Julie mentioned, is incredibly thematic. I really enjoy the fact that each chapter is different. You have to figure it out, make sure that you're playing it. It does give that little bit of... like a little bit of that brain burn because the game never plays the same. Well, sorry, not never plays the same. Each chapter doesn't play the same, so you do need to figure it out when you flip the page. Now, it is a little annoying. They have to set it up and reset it every chapter. Thankfully, there's not a lot of components, but it still does take some time, and that is definitely a little bit of a detractor for me because it probably pushes the game to that hour and 20-minute mark when it should probably be closer to the hour mark, like I mentioned earlier. The components are good quality except for the cards. Ravensburger is notoriously bad with their cards, and the gloss and the finish on these are a little bit nicer, but they still feel a little bit more flimsy than I would like them to be. The miniatures are just okay, but they do add to the game. One thing that I would actually prefer, though, is I actually kind of want standees. Not gonna lie, because I think these miniatures might be coming as close to doubling the cost of the game. So this was standees, you get nice art. They've got some good cardboard quality components for some of the other pieces. I think with standees you could lower the cost of this game and get it around that mark where people could buy it easily and just, shelve it for a while and then decide to replay it. The changes in the mechanics that I did really like were the different chapter decks, having it divided up into each chapter instead of using the same plot deck, I thought was pretty cool. The fact that you have to gain the wishes from Glinda the Good Witch as a way to stay alive in the game if you happen to fail a chapter, I thought was definitely interesting and adds a little bit more tension and also makes those resources a little bit more valuable. Some of the challenges, instead of rewarding you with Glinda's wish, you had the option to get special cards, and because we've been putting them in the deck, we took a lot more of those special cards, which I thought were overall a big difference maker by having those abilities available to us. Yep. Now, I don't really have much more to say about the game because Julie said most of it. You've also heard a lot of my thoughts previously if you haven't, unless you haven't listened to our review on The Princess Bride. And I feel very much the same about this one. I don't enjoy this one as much because I don't like the IP, but it still does a very great, thematic experience in a cool format with the book. But I'm with Julie. This is a board game cafe type of game. This is a board from your friend type of game. You really don't need this in your collection unless you are a gigantic fan of the IP. And I don't think that Julie or I loves I don't. And from her comments, I would say I don't think she loves The Wizard of Oz enough to necessarily keep this in the collection.
I think, I was going to say, I like The Wizard of Oz a lot. Maybe if this was an X-Files game, put it that way, if that gives you an idea.
Yeah, I think you really want to get these games and keep them in the collection when they're like your favorite IPs of all time. Something that you're going to want to play quickly, and you don't mind having a very, slimmed down, easy to play family experience. Now, if this was based on, let's say, Home Alone or National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
No, Home Alone, yes. The
other one's because it's Christmas time. At least you could have a good reason to get it out once a year. I don't see a good enough reason to get this back to the table. So I think this is probably our last adventure book game, unless an IP shows up that we really like, because right now they're hitting a price point where I just rather buy something else. And by that, I mean it gets pretty close to the price point of, let's say, Marvel Champions big box expansion. So I really would rather one of those than this because I'm just not getting the gameplay out of it for the cost.
So what's your rating?
So I'll go first. This is a 6. It's fine. It's good. The components are okay. It's incredibly thematic. The theme and the fact that it captured the story perfectly, so it really gets it from a 5 to a 6. But I'm just kind of done with these games.
It's a 6.5 for me. I liked it a bit more than The Princess Bride because of the the theme and a couple little added mechanics, but it's still just. You
also don't know how much it costs, so I think that might dig it a half a point.
It might, But we're not going to start you telling me how much games cost because, that's a whole other discussion.
That is a whole other discussion. And definitely one we do not have time for in this video.
So on that note, it's time to remind you to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified when we have new content for you.
And take a look down below in the video description. You can find links to all of our social media feeds, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you'd like to see some pictures of Julie and I playing the Wizard of Oz adventure book game, there'll be plenty on those feeds. Also down there is a link to multizone.ca, a great Canadian game store. If you're looking for anything from Ravensburger, like Wonder Woman Challenge of the Amazons, one that we do really like, the Wizard of Oz adventure book game, the Princess Bride game, make sure you check them out. You'll get 10% off your next purchase, and it's a great way to support the channel as a portion of that purchase will be returned to us. And then popping up in front of us will be links to some of our previously released videos. In front of me will be our most recent release. In front of Julie will take you back to our review and how to play of the Princess Bride adventure book game. And on that note, we're now going to
grab our drink,
grab our best friend and no longer lost traveler, because apparently you made it home.
I'm going to keep playing games, just apparently not this one.
Yeah, not this one and probably not the adventure book series, but I am definitely curious to see what book 3 is going to be.